Now, I've been following the campaign of Kamala Harris, and whenever it comes to men, it always feels as if she lives in another world where oxygen's a myth. Because every single time I hear her speak about this, it absolutely makes no sense to me. So to provide a bit of context, Kamala Harris, she's not doing so well with the men.
And we pressed her about the widening gender gap. The latest NBC News poll shows Harris leads Trump among women by 14 points. But Trump has a 16-point advantage with men.
Men still say by 16% margin they're supporting Donald Trump right now. Why do you think that is?
It's not the experience that I'm having, to be honest with you.
That hasn't been your experience. That's equivalent to someone looking out into the flat landscape of Earth and saying, you know what, the Earth isn't round, because that hasn't been my experience. The math and the numbers indicate otherwise. And the worst part is that she's just downplaying it too. Imagine if someone went up to her and asked her about something serious, like the sinking of the Titanic, and then she just downplays it. Oh, it was just, you know, man, it was just like a splash in the ocean.
The vice president downplaying the divide.
Why do you think there is a disconnect for you with men right now?
Well, let me tell you, you can look at this audience and you can see that there are people of every background and gender who are showing up by the thousands. And I think it is because they know I intend to be a president for all Americans.
I don't believe what she's saying here. I don't even think she believes what she's saying here. Now, I can prove that she doesn't believe her words because, believe it or not, there are ads out there that are targeting men.
It's time to let her lead. It's time to stand for the principles and freedoms that built this country. Because I don't know what the hell he's talking about. I still think this country is great. It's time to be a man. Vote for a woman.
All right, not bad. Let's go ahead and take a look at another one.
I ain't afraid of bears. That's what bear hugs are for.
I'll tell you another thing I sure as shit am not afraid of. Women.
I'm not afraid of women.
I'm not afraid of women.
They want to control their bodies? I say go for it.
They want to use IVF to start a family? I'm not afraid of families.
They want to be childless cat ladies?
Have all the cats you want.
Woman wants to be president?
Well, I hope she has the guts to look me right in the eye and accept my full-throated endorsement.
Did he just say full-throated endorsement? What is this ad?
I'm man enough to be emotional in front of my wife.
In front of my kids.
In front of my horse.
I'm man enough to tell you that I cry at Love Actually.
Good Will Hunting.
West Side Story.
That and Predator.
And I'm sick of so-called men domineering, belittling, and controlling women just so they can feel more powerful.
Yo, what is it with all of these stereotypes? There's the bear, the opening up to women, that women are feeling empowered. It's just full of stereotypes. I'm not even kidding when I tell you that when I was viewing this ad, my favorite part of the viewing experience was when the video started buffering. And if you don't think that that's enough evidence, just take a look at the Kamala camp, how Obama is looking at all of these men and in some way kind of shaming them for not voting for a woman.
And you're coming up with all kinds of reasons and excuses. I've got a problem with that because part of it makes me think, and I'm speaking to men directly now, part of it makes me think that, well, you just aren't feeling the idea of having a woman as president. And you're coming up with other alternatives and other reasons for that. And so now you're thinking about sitting out or even supporting somebody who has a history of denigrating you because you think that's a sign of strength, because that's what being a man is, putting women down. That's not acceptable. That's not, this shouldn't even be a question.
We're going to come back to the Obama video, but just let me go ahead and finish my point. All right. My point is that it's evident that she's not doing well with men, you know? And of course, even Kamala was the one who downplayed it. Even she knows that she's having trouble with men.
Yeah. Oh, we have microphones in here listening to everything. Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay.
Yeah, so it's quite obvious that even Kamala doesn't believe in her own words, you know? And to me, that's just not a good look. Because that to me tells me, you know, what else don't you believe in, you know? I wish she wouldn't downplay it like that and actually accept it. I think that would have probably made her look a lot more interested in men. because she would recognize, yeah, like I have a man problem, you know, and we're gonna do something about it. But instead, she just downplays it and tries to like hide it. I don't like that, but whatever, man. It's already election day, so who knows how that's gonna turn out. But let me go back to the Obama clip though, because I really want to talk about that. To me, it sounds like he's viewing men as if they don't want a woman in office, and I don't understand how he came to this conclusion, because most men, they look at Andrew Tate, Sneeko, Fresh and Fit, and they're constantly pointing out their flaws, constantly pointing out their lack of substance in their words. But I know that's just a small segment of the internet, but like the majority of the men they don't think like that. I'm pretty sure that a good portion of them don't even mind that a woman is in office. However, if Kamala Harris wants men to show up for her, she needs to show up for men. And that clearly was not the standard that was met. Joe Rogan offered her a spot on the Joe Rogan Experience, and that podcast is male dominated, but she didn't show up. That was a huge amount of men that could have been viewing what she had to offer and her personality. Because when I watched her on Shannon Sharp, because effectively that's where she ended up, I barely got to know her. Barely. I don't even know anything about her. The only thing that I know is that she likes jazz, and that's ultimately really all I know about Kamala Harris, that she likes jazz. I don't know anything else, because when she went on a Shannon Sharp podcast, all she talked about was politics and Donald Trump. I wanted to see who she was as a person, or she is as a person, and she could have effectively done that on the Joe Rogan podcast, but she didn't show up, which, by the way, again, is male dominated. And now this has become a huge problem for the Democrats, because just recently Joe Rogan ended up endorsing Donald Trump. And there's a meme going around where the image depicts Joe Rogan holding a mic to Kamala Harris, and Kamala Harris is just ignoring him, downplaying the endorsement. Ultimately, I don't think that the Democrats are going to win the male vote at all, because it's not just about having fancy ads that depict men being men. It's about addressing their concerns and their problems, and that's not what occurred at all. Kamala Harris I have not heard her bring up anything related to, academics. Boys are doing absolutely terrible in academics. Men are not doing well economically. Their mental healths are declining fast. They're dropping out of the workforce. I don't hear any of these problems being addressed. But don't get it twisted. Trump isn't offering that either. I haven't heard Trump address any of these issues. And another issue that I have is that Trump wants to cut the social safety net. However, men, they depend on the social safety net. They depend on those disability benefits. They depend on SNAP, which is food stamps. They depend on those benefits. But Republicans, they want to cut those benefits. If you take a look at Project 2025, right here under this section right here, Reform SNAP, go ahead and read this section right here. But I want to go ahead and read this segment of that, re-implementing work requirements. Now remember, men are dropping out of the workforce for many reasons. One of the big reasons is the economy. They're not getting paid a livable wage. And because they don't have a livable wage and they can't afford anything, they're becoming depressed, because they're literally trapped in a prison, in a financial prison. Now let's go ahead and read Project 2025, that segment. It reads, the statutory language covering food stamps allows states to waive work requirements that otherwise apply to work-capable individuals. That is, adult beneficiaries between the ages 18 to 50 who are not disabled and do not have any children or other dependents in home. So if you have a problem with the way they're paying you, well, then guess what? You don't have time to settle down and think about your life choices. Instead, they want you to go to work so you can get these benefits. You want food stamps? Go to work. And believe it or not, I actually agree with this policy. I think it is a good policy. If you're going to be taking benefits from the government, I think it's important for that person who's receiving benefits to give something back. However, I don't think that in this moment, it's a good idea to implement this policy. And the reason why is because men currently are depressed. They don't want to work because it's not a livable wage. Men are completely confused about what manhood means. They're not doing well academically. Their whole life is set up to fail in the future. And I think that men right now should take some time off to understand who they are as a person, so then they can develop some sort of drive so they can go out there and achieve it. And of course, it's always best to have a government issued program where they accumulate all of these men and put these men in a room so they can communicate with one another, while also having an instructor who can help guide these men to think a certain way about their path, their future, and how they view the world. But Donald Trump isn't offering anything like that. Not even this Project 2025 mandate is offering anything like that. And this is how you know that the men are looking for anybody to just address a modicum of their problems. You know, obviously the Democratic Party isn't going to do that because unfortunately the Democratic Party has developed a couple of people who have misandrous tendencies. But one of the main reasons why the men are showing up for Trump is because Trump, he shows up for them. He went on the Joe Rogan podcast, got 40 million views. JD Vance went on the Joe Rogan podcast. Obviously UFC, male dominated. Logan Paul, who else? The Flagrant podcast. Like, he's been on all of these podcasts where men are. And they can see Donald Trump, which is why when I made the video on Donald Trump going on the Joe Rogan podcast, I said there that this is good because people can see him. They can see the human. They can't see Kamala Harris because Kamala Harris never showed up. So they don't know who they're voting for. They don't know what Kamala has for them. And the thing is that she didn't even have to go on that podcast and make it about women. All she had to really do is just show up, be herself, and that's it. Because I understand too, at the same time, because I kind of empathize with Kamala Harris. She's the head of the Democratic Party, and the Democratic Party does not look at men favorably. As a matter of fact, you can go on the Democratic website and you can check for yourself under the tab Who We Serve. You can see that men are not on that list. But if it did serve men, men would have been under LGBTQ community and above Native Americans. And that could potentially be the reason why Kamala Harris barely addressed men, because she knows that if she addresses the men and addresses their problems, she's probably going to get backlash from her own party. This is a really unique period in time where both genders are going up against each other, because that's ultimately what it is. It really is both men and women going up against each other. So all I really got to say is I wish the best for both parties. Have a clean battle, and yeah, man, we'll see how this turns out. So this is gonna be a interesting election. So yeah, I just kind of want to just go ahead and just put some of my thoughts out there, and that's all I have for you guys. And yeah, hopefully you guys learned something today.